I have never been prouder than I am today to be a part of the transportation family. I watched rigs from all over Canada and even some from the US roll into Ottawa Friday night, horns blasting and flags waving. Hundreds of protesters on foot flooded into Parliamentary Precinct on Saturday in the midst of the extreme weather warnings, joining a lineup of truckers that started to arrive on the scene late Friday night. They were later joined by the drivers and demonstrators from all regions of the country that in some cases traveled thousands of kilometers to take their message to the streets outside of the Prime Minister's office in the downtown core. This convoy represents more than just truck drivers unable to cross the border. It represents all Canadians fed up with government mandates when it comes to COVID-19. Being fed up with lockdowns, travel restrictions, business closures, school closures, and expecting Canadians to comply. And now, what Canadians will not stand for is losing jobs over taking the jab. I myself am double vaccinated, had the Delta, and recently the Omicron. I feel like Superman with the amount of antibodies I have in my body. Governments in every province will have to step up and answer some difficult questions over the next few months from some very fed up Canadian citizens across the country. As a Canadian, we have done what we've been asked to do. We've been vaccinated, we've worn masks, we've stayed away from each other, we've missed births, weddings, funerals. We haven't been able to be with our loved ones during very difficult times in hospitals and long-term care facilities. Our children have stayed home from school and tried to learn online, turning parents into part-time educators. All along, we have toed the line. We have had enough. It is time for the government to finally get organized and do what it should have done 2 years ago when we first heard about COVID-19. Get a cohesive and effective plan to manage the virus and keep our infrastructure moving. These lockdowns are destroying people mentally. Would it not have been made more sense to build more capacity for hospitals? I mean, China managed to build a 645,000 square foot hospital in 10 days. All the money that we spent, CERB checks, EI, crippling small businesses around Canada, wage subsidy, rent subsidy. Would it not have made more sense to build infrastructure? Would we have been able to build these hospitals here in Canada? I mean, we would first need to file an amendment for zoning, which would have probably taken a couple of years. Then we would need a building permit. We would have to wait about 6 months to a year for that. Oh, and construction permits. God knows how long that would have taken. As a proud Canadian, I was more than pleased to see that there were, for the most part, people smiling and laughing and getting along. This is Canada. This is how we roll. Words of support from people like Elon Musk, Russell Brand, Joe Rogan hit social media and boosted the spirits even higher of anyone participating in this convoy. Musk tweeted, "Canadian truckers rule." Comedian Rob Schneider joined the discussion on social media on Thursday. He tweeted, "Trudeau may have to redefine what a small fridge of minority is. It's stretching from Manitoba to Ontario." Trump, speaking at a rally on Conroe, Texas, said, "Canadian protesters are doing more to defend American freedom than our own leaders by far." And US truckers are now planning a convoy from California to DC called the Convoy to DC 2022. I wish them well and stay tuned in this channel for updates on that convoy as well. You would have a hard time finding a Canadian that has not heard about the Ottawa protest, the Freedom Convoy 2022. There are reports that the convoy was 80 kilometers long at some points. The world is watching the Pillar of Light. Yes, we Canadians, the Pillar of Light. This proves that there is a real power in number. You can make a difference. There were everyday people lined up along the route from British Columbia to Ottawa, waving flags, signs, and cheering. People in their cars and standing on the side of the road, on the overpasses, handing out coffee at truck stops, and even joining in at the convoy at points along the way. These are Canadians who aren't necessarily in trucking industry. They are Canadians who understand that trucks are the critical part of our supply chain here, and without a fully functional supply chain in both Canada and the US, we will all suffer. This was a true example of free speech, freedom of expression, and freedom of assembly. We spoke, we expressed on how we feel about mandates, and we assembled, and we did it all with honor and dignity. and the media suppressing the truth, both the Canadians and the US federal governments have been perfectly happy allowing drivers to cross both directions without having to show a vaccine card or declare their status. Our truckers have been out there day in and day out delivering food, building supplies, medical supplies, and other crucial cargo throughout the last 2 years. What in the world has changed? Absolutely nothing. I'm Ronan. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.